This is the world's first external HDMI 2.1 capture card, and it's pretty amazing.
Out there a bit too far, and his receiver couldn't run under it.
On second down, a run with Edwards-Helaire. And they'll get him down as he's inside the 40. It'll go as a gain of 10 and a Kansas City first down.
So this is the AVerMedia Live Gamer ULTRA 2.1. Now I've had a lot of different capture cards over the years, and this has quickly become my absolute favorite card. I use it 90% of the time. If it could record 4K 60 with HDR, then I wouldn't even ever need to use my Live Gamer Bolt. The quality is second to none. All the gameplay footage comes out looking crisp and alive. And it has a basically no latency pass-through, so it's not going to change the feel of your games. If you watched the previous video about the Live Gamer Bolt, we kind of covered latency there, and I showed you how that card has about 6 frames of latency versus what's going into the computer. So if I change pages in Fortnite, we see the motion on the computer screen first, and about 6 frames later, we see it on the TV. But with the Live Gamer ULTRA 2.1, whenever I change pages, we see the motion on the TV first, and about 4 frames later, we see it on the computer. So the pass-through on the LGU2.1 is basically instant, and it does not change the way your games feel at all. Here's the box. Feel free to pause if you want to read this. Let's pop it open. You'll see a setup diagram on the inside, as well as a link to download the software. There's the Live Gamer ULTRA 2.1. Under here, you have your included cables. You'll get an audio cable, a USB-C 3.2 Gen 2 cable. You can also use a Type A adapter if you need to, or of course get a C to A cable. Just keep in mind that your adapter or your cable has to be USB 3.2 Gen 2 compatible, all right? Then we have a certified ultra high speed HDMI cable and a quick start guide. The unit itself is plastic, the top is kind of curved, and the bottom has rubber feet. It's roughly the same size as the original Live Gamer ULTRA, except the ULTRA 2.1 doesn't have a fan, and it's roughly half the size of the Live Gamer Bolt. All your ports are on the rear and clearly labeled, and the front has an RGB light. Now this light can be customized to whatever you want. It's compatible with some third-party software. Microsoft is also working on combining all your different RGB devices and apps into a standard feature in Windows 11, or you can turn the light off completely, or customize it within the gaming utility app. Let's check out the tech specs real quick. This, of course, is an HDMI 2.1 device. The max pass-through, which would be the signal that is going to your TV or monitor, is 4K 144 frames per second with HDR or VRR, 2K at 240 frames per second HDR VRR, or 1080p at up to 360 frames per second, assuming you have a monitor or TV that can do that, and it's also HDR VRR. Now the max capture resolution for Windows is 4K at 60 frames per second. If you happen to be on Mac, then you're going to top out at 4K 30 frames per second. If we look at the breakdown of supported resolutions by color format, and specifically focus on P010, which is HDR10, then you'll see we can actually record HDR with this card, even though it's not really advertised as an HDR capture card. But we are limited to 4K 30 FPS if we want to capture with HDR. Now we can still pass through HDR at up to 144, but the capture of HDR, it's going to be limited on 4K 30, okay? Though, of course, you could do, say, 2K at 60 FPS with HDR if you wanted to. Now, if we compare this with the Live Gamer Bolt, then that card can capture a full 4K 60 FPS with HDR. However, honestly, HDR footage is much harder to work with, and in most cases, it's just not necessary to capture games in HDR. Now, HDR is a topic we could talk about for hours. I go into it a bit in the Live Gamer Bolt video, so go watch that if you want to see how much harder it is to work with HDR files. Now, I will have some HDR clips that were captured with the Live Gamer ULTRA 2.1, so you're just able to see the quality of the HDR capture. And I'll be sure to have links for those in the description below. Take note of the PC requirements. The PC we're using is the Asus ROG Strix G16 with an i9, RTX 4070, 32 gig of RAM, and it has a USB-C 3.2 Gen 2 port on this side, and 2 USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A ports on the other side. It also has a Thunderbolt 4 port, and while AVerMedia says that this card is not compatible with Thunderbolt, I have tested it with Thunderbolt 4 and it seems to work just fine, although your results may vary. Before we hook this up, we need to see what this screen is capable of connected directly to the Xbox, because sometimes these cards may change what your TV is capable of. So this TV is 60 Hertz, so we can't do 120 FPS on this screen. Of course, if you have a TV that can do 120, 144, 240, then you should have this option, but we don't. We do have HDR10, so we'll benefit from that HDR pass-through. All right, let's hook it up. First, I'll connect it to the PC. Then head to this site and click download so we can get the software. Now, technically, you don't have to download any software. This is a plug and play device, but you'll probably want to update the firmware, get the software that controls the lights, and get RECentral. You can download these things individually or use RECentral, and it should get everything for you. Get everything updated, downloaded, and installed, and then we'll connect the HDMI from the Xbox to the input, and connect another ultra high-speed HDMI 2.1 cable to the output and into the TV. Even though this TV is only HDMI 2.0, I'm still going to use the 2.1 cable. And that's it. I can turn on the Xbox, open RECentral, everything is passing through to the TV, and I can record the output of the Xbox in RECentral. You can of course also use OBS or Streamlabs or whatever capture program that you prefer. Although RECentral is probably the easiest one to use. You can just select optimal and it will literally set everything up for you to the best possible settings for your system and whatever you're recording. Or of course you can set up your own capture profiles. Record in HDR just by clicking this button. There's a big record button or a big stream button or even a multi-stream button. And everything is just laid out so it's super easy to use. But of course, if you prefer OBS or Streamlabs or whatever, you can use that as well. I happen to use both RECentral and OBS. It kind of just depends on the options that I need at that time. Let's check the 4K TV details just to see if anything has changed. And we're all good here. We still got 60 FPS, of course. We still have HDR, so we're all good for our gaming right here. There is a little weird thing here about if I'm going to watch movies or something about 24 FPS, but that's not even a thing. It's not even a problem here at all. All right, so everything looks good here. So now we'll throw in some more gaming footage that was captured with the Live Gamer ULTRA 2.1. And there will also be some longer samples that you can view that I'll link in the description below. Now, I'm the type of person that likes to leave my capture card connected all the time. I don't want the hassle of unplugging and replugging. It's too much, right? So one thing that I really like about this card versus the Bolt is that as long as I have my computer plugged in, the Live Gamer ULTRA will be on, okay? And I don't even have to turn the computer on, which is great because sometimes you don't want to stream or record, Whereas with the Bolt, I have to turn the computer on even if I'm not planning to record or stream. As far as negatives for this card, there really aren't any, Although I do wish that we could record 4K 60 FPS HDR with this card. If that was the case, then it would be the perfect external card for everyone, and I wouldn't even need to use my Live Gamer Bolt. Even though I record SDR 90% of the time, it would just be nice to have 4K 60 HDR in this card. So that is the AVerMedia Live Gamer ULTRA 2.1. It's currently my absolute favorite card and the one that I would recommend. All of the footage recorded or streamed looks absolutely stunning. It's USB, so it's much more compatible than Thunderbolt devices, and I've never had an issue with this card. No freezing, no stuttering, no crashing. It's just been perfect so far. So if you want to pick one up for yourself, or you want to pick up the laptop, or you want to pick up this awesome gaming center, hey, I'll be sure to have links in the description below. Once again, that is the amazing, awesome, stupendous AVerMedia Live Gamer ULTRA 2.1.